I want to tell you a story today. I was going to say it was last year. Just checking the date. Yes, this is last year, right? I was on holiday, and I don't even really need this piece of paper, but having it here makes me feel better. I was on holiday last year, in June. I was with my family, and we went on a cruise, which was beautiful. And it happened, it was near the end of the holiday. How many days was left? It doesn't say on this form. It was maybe 2 or 3 days before the end. I went to one of the bars during the day because I knew it would be empty, there'd be no one in there, and I could sit quietly on my own. And so I was in there for a while, and this waiter came in. He works on the bar, like out on deck and stuff. And he came and he said hi, and he said that he'd been watching me for a while, which is creepy enough. And he came and sat down next to me and said, "Is this okay?" And he was just being creepy. He said that he liked me, and he'd been watching me for a while, and he's just, I think that was basically his starting point. I don't know if I've said that as quite as well as he did, but that was where we started off. And then he sat down next to me, and he was asking me about myself and how I was and that sort of thing. And he, I can't remember what else he said, but I was kind of freaked out a bit then. I just wanted him to go away. So thankfully, after a time, he said, "Can I go and get you a glass of water?" So I said, "Yes, thank you, that'd be great." So he went away, and I should have taken the chance then to leave while he was gone, but I didn't. I was hoping that he wouldn't come back, but he did, and he came back with the water. So so there was more more discomfort for me. I don't know if he got any of that. I was just really nervous and shy, and that was probably why he was asking if I was okay, because he was quite relaxed and fine, he was calm, and I was a bit nervous and a bit uncomfortable and perhaps a bit scared, like you would be in that situation. So I left the bar to go back to my cabin, and he followed me, and I was hoping that he wouldn't, that I would be able to lose him somewhere between that empty bar and the cabin. I don't know why that would happen. Perhaps I just thought he would get the message. I don't know if I ignored him. But he didn't. He followed me back to the cabin, and he followed me inside as well, which, if I wasn't freaked out already, that really freaked me out. And I didn't know what to say. I wanted him to leave me alone, but I didn't want to sound rude, because I'm a very polite person and very nice, and I'm kind of shy and quiet, and I like to be nice to people. I didn't know how to tell him to leave me alone without sounding rude, and at that moment, up until that point, that was my what I was most worried about. I think it was at that point he came and sat next to me on the bed in the cabin, and he was putting his hand on my knee, and he was trying to kiss me, and I didn't let him. He sort of, when somebody wants to kiss you, and if you don't want to, normally it's in a date situation, and it's a bit awkward if you turn away, like, no, I don't want to, and that's what I was doing. He was sort of going towards me, and I was like, no. So if he did manage to kiss me, the most he kissed was sort of on my cheek or something, but he kept trying. He didn't give up, and he said he wanted me to, he wanted to arrange to come back to my cabin later on, like at night or whatever. He wanted me to leave my door open, you know, so that he could come in and we could have sex. And I was like, no way, I don't even know you. And if I did, I still wouldn't, because it's, you know, it's just no. That is not the way you want to pick up a girl, you know. That was like super creepy from the moment I laid eyes on him. So, no way, I don't do that sort of thing. But he didn't give up, and I wanted him to go away. So when, I think it was his suggestion, no, was it me? I can't remember, maybe it was my suggestion, I want to have a nap, can you go, sort of thing. I can't remember how it came about, but he tucked me up in bed before he left. It was either his suggestion, do you want to have a nap? I will tuck you up, or my suggestion, I want to have a nap, can you please go? So, so that was the sort of end of it. He took me up in bed, and then he left. And it was at that point, when he was standing at the door of the cabin to leave, he had his back to me, I looked up at him, and I saw that he was being careful about leaving. He was looking around the door, like, and sort of keeping it almost closed, so that when he left, nobody would see him walking out of the cabin, because and I realised that he was staff and he shouldn't have been in my cabin. That never even sort of occurred to me before, and that was when I realised that that was really wrong, that he was actually in my cabin. Needless to say, I never left my door open that night, or any other night before I left. But the saving grace for me, I think, was during that whole experience, I had my 2 children with me. Otherwise, that could have ended up a totally different way, because once he followed me into my cabin, if I hadn't have been with my children the whole time, I would have been in there alone with him, you know, fucking locked in, and he could just have done it right there if he'd have wanted to. I don't think I would have had to have done much, you know, much resisting. He could have raped me if he'd wanted to. I would have been at his mercy, just me and him in the cabin. I don't know if he would have thought I would have wanted it. He was trying to kiss me, he had his hand on my leg, and there was a fucking bed right there, you know. He could have just done it. So I was so thankful that I was not alone and that I had my children with me. That was the reason why I sought out a deserted nightclub room, you know, the bar area at the time, so I could be there with them and they could play and I could sit and read, and we would just have the peace of the room for a while for just us, instead of being in the cabin, which is a lot smaller. There was more space for them to play, so that was how it started. And he was there, and I played with them for a bit in the bar area, you know, because I thought if I ignore him, he'll go away and he won't stop being creepy, but he didn't. And he followed us back to the cabin and tucked us up in bed before he left. But the fact that I was there with my children and they were sleeping in the same cabin as me, it didn't faze him from suggesting, you know, coming back later to have sex with me. In the same way as my children when they were asleep. That I would never do that, even with a steady boyfriend. If I had one, I would never have sex in the same room as my children, because that is just like, no. In the next room, that's a little bit, if they're asleep, it's like I would feel uncomfortable doing that, but in the same fucking room, you can't say yes to that. So that was something that happened to me. And for the rest of the holiday, however many days it was, I was absolutely terrified. That experience, like, destroyed the rest of that holiday for me, because I was scared. I went to the desk on the cruise ship and reported him to the crew members later on that day, because it was bothering me that much. I was scared to wander around the ship after that in case I bumped into him again, because he was that creepy. So I went up to the desk and I spoke to the crew members and reported to him. And that's what this piece of paper is. this is, I don't know if you can see that because they're like, this is the report that I made to them and they wrote it down and this is my copy. I don't even need this to tell you what happened, but it makes me feel better to have it in front of me, so even though I've hardly looked at it. So that was a really scary experience. So I reported him to the crew members, and I might have known his name at the time from his name badge, but I can't remember. I obviously told them something which identified him because he was fired because they said they didn't want anyone like that on their crew, so he was dismissed. And when we docked at Palma, he left the ship. That was it. He was gone. So that was a relief, but still for the rest of the holiday, that was maybe 2 days. So thankfully that was near the end of the holiday, otherwise it would just destroyed the whole rest of the holiday for me. I was just terrified. I was scared. After I'd reported him and they dealt with him, I think I was less nervous about bumping into him around the ship, but that was still a worry. And I hadn't had any alcohol for the whole holiday so far in the bars. You know, you go to a bar at night, you have a drink just because it's fun. I hadn't done that. But that night, after that experience with him, I went to a bar and I had a really strong drink. I didn't get drunk, but that was the place I was. I was just so, like, terrified. I had a drink and it was quite strong. And especially with the ship swaying, I remember walking out of the bar and along the deck just to be in the night sky with the beautiful stars and that, and I was feeling a little bit wobbly because of the drink, but I felt better. So I just thought I'd share that terrifying experience. Even on a cruise ship, you're not safe. There's creeps everywhere, so be careful. So that is the time I think I have been most grateful, like so grateful you won't believe, that I was with my children, because as I said, otherwise I dread to think what would have happened. That's what terrifies me the most. I think he could potentially have raped me in my cabin if I hadn't been with my children. I don't know if he would have gone that far or anything, but that really scared me. That total experience was, like, creepy. It was the creepiest guy ever, so I wouldn't have put it past him. So it scares me a little bit just talking about it. Makes me a bit nervous. It's one of those things, you know, it's emotional just to talk about it. Even though I don't feel that emotional right now, when I went and reported him to the crew members, I started fucking crying at them because, you know, reliving an experience is very emotional, and even if you don't want to cry, you cry. So that's the point I was at. So thankfully he's gone, at least off that cruise ship. So if he manages to get another job on another cruise ship, the passengers better watch out. I don't know. That was terrifying. That's probably the most terrifying thing that's happened to me in a good number of years. So have a good Sunday, and I'll see you later.